integrated water master plan. It's a document, typically a couple volumes in size. One, the water resources side of things, that's your supply, and then your infrastructure side of things, that is the infrastructure, how to get water from point A to point B, and then back on the wastewater side of things, and back into the ground in our case. But it's a guidance document, not just for the city, but also for development. Having said that, it's also, I think I mentioned before, it's pretty fluid in a sense that when development comes in, we've got lines on a page that tend to mirror arterials and whatnot, and if development wants to change that around, usually they'll ask us to say, hey, your integrated water master plan says this, what do you think about that? These guys get involved, and in many cases it's something we can accommodate moving forward. It takes into account, forward-looking document. This one here, we're looking out to 2040, which is a little bit different than what we had looked at in the past. They've been 25-year look-aheads. We did 15 years just because of the pace and the nature of growth that we've got in Buckeye. But it takes into account all of our other planning documents, as well as our forecasted population growth and current legislation. So, what we've why the adoption was needed, obviously, in 2017, an awful lot has taken place. Just in the past 2 or 3 years, an awful lot has taken place. Legislation, availability of other resources that we've taken advantage of, specifically Harquahala. We are our partnering efforts with the irrigation districts has ramped up pretty significantly, in a sense that they are seeing that their business model and their business dynamic is changing, and they want to be a part of a solution for the city as well as the fact that our population has skyrocketed even more so. So during this effort, we've looked at quite a few, just a snapshot of kind of our high points there, but I'll point right to the one right in the middle where it says it's about a 2-year effort to put this together, and at the end of it, we did have a nice, really constructive peer review session with many of the engineers that work in Buckeye, as well as the development, as well as the home builders. They all had a chance to take a look at it, provide us with feedback. Many cases, the developers and the engineers know what they've got coming down the pipe. We also know what's coming down the pipe as it relates to their design and their infrastructure. And they said, well, what about this and what about that? And we said, we gotta draw the line somewhere, guys. But it doesn't mean that when they propose something that we can then look at and say, does it meet the intent of the integrated water master plan? And most likely that'll be the case. It's just we have to be flexible with the document, but at the same time provide your intent to what is needed for the city. We've identified new assets, specifically, obviously Harquahala wasn't in the last one. We had Harquahala come in, as well as a lot of these linked together, updated implementation of our partnerships. We've had a lot of good communication and discussion with Buckeye Water Conservation District, as well as Roosevelt Irrigation District, to say how can they be a wholesaler, so to speak, a supplier of water to us. One of the biggest recommendations was prioritizing recharge from our wastewater side of things. Wastewater had been, in many cases, the effluent had been a byproduct that had been discharged. We are ramping that up. We've got a series of capital projects in the works right now. This just reinforced the fact that we need to put water back in the ground as much as we possibly can. And as I mentioned before, we did a shorter time horizon for this master plan because of the nature of water right now, fast pace of growth, as well as legislation, and everything else that has come down the pipe for us. Another pun that wasn't intended there. So look at some of the recommendations that we've got. So on as I mentioned, there's 2 volumes specifically. There's a water resources volume, and a lot of it, this body has been really up to speed on a lot of what's going on with water, but the taking advantage of the designation tool as it becomes as it's advantageous for the city, as well as again prioritizing effluent, maximizing underground storage. You'll see a recommendation here that's a recommendation, but it's something we're also working towards is utilizing underground storage opportunities as they come about. Continue to work towards our partnerships with water suppliers, not just the irrigation districts, but also EPCOR as a potential supplier or conveyor of get water through their system to us. It works in our benefit. Same thing with Goodyear. There's also a potential opportunity to work on some more of a regional effort. So these images that we've got here are just snapshots of many that we've got in the Integrated Water Master Plan. And so looking at Tartesso, the Tartesso area for water specifically, from an infrastructure standpoint, the dotted lines on the page there are future lines for water that we're proposing that this is the size it needs to be in order to distribute water throughout the area. We do know that the developers in this area have different layouts of what they're planning on working on. We can work with that, but what this points out is that this is a regional infrastructure network that we're putting together. In the circle there is the Tartesso Water Campus, and will grow within that area, whereas prior master plans had water campuses in each of the developments that were in that area. More assets, more dollars, cost. This way, we utilize a more regional, centralized location. Wells can be brought to a centralized location and then distributed out. We've worked with the developers in this area. They're very much in tune with it as well. And so again, the recommendation aligns with the discussions that we've had with the developers in the area.
Terry,
yes,
can I ask you a question about that?
Yes.
That's a much more efficient model for us as a city. Because like you said, we don't have each individual development with its own water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant.
Correct.
And individual infrastructure. Is that also in maybe the peer review, which I really appreciate you guys going out and having conversations. Sometimes we do stuff in a vacuum and we think it's the greatest plan ever, and you take it out and they say, hey, that doesn't work for us at all. But does this model also make it more cost effective for development in the future?
Oh, absolutely. A regional approach also allows for a scalable approach. And so we've identified this area right here. We've vetted a lot of this even before we nailed this down. We vetted this out and said it allows for development to come in and add to at the rate at which they grow, as well as they can partner up in sources, in wells, in treatment, those types of things as well. So it works out for the benefit of both the city because we're staffing and we're operating a single facility. Wells, that's a whole other ballgame. We'd have them anyway. But yes, to answer your question, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to kind of tag on to that, you had mentioned storage. So is the storage going to be a regional solution as well, or?
The underground storage or reservoir?
Yeah, I know it's still a work in progress, but what are the thoughts there? Like, just give me a big picture.
Sure. So this area specifically is actually one of our more efficient areas in the sense that wastewater is regionalized and it will continue to be regionalized. The plant sits, let's see if this thing works, the plant sits right, Jason help me out here, kind of like right out down here, something like that. And so this entire area is going to drain down to that facility. And so all the effluent that we reclaim will go back into the underground storage facility that's already permitted in this area. Right now it's permitted for like 20 MGD. It's a really large facility. We'll go right there. And then as the developments grow, a lot of the water is in the Hacienda. And so therefore we can place wells that would recover that effluent back out and then send back into our system.
So when you say storage facility, my mind immediately jumps to something that was built. But these are natural.
Yeah. The state calls facilities basically underground permitted areas of
So
water. So you're not
it's some kind of geologic thing that allows us to recapture all of that.
Yeah, usually it starts with a built basin, and then the water goes in the basin, perks into the ground, and then the area
I
is
just wanted to
identified.
clarify that.
What's that?
I said I just wanted to clarify
Yeah.
that.
No, great question.
Thank you.
Let's see here, so moving on, so looking at, switching gears, that was Tartesso water, this would be central wastewater. This area, because central is pretty spread out, specifically SR 85 eastward, we've got a couple different options to try to receive those flows from that eastern portion that's pretty undeveloped right now. And a lot of that is based on the growth patterns, and we may start out with option 1 and then go to option 2, working with the developer in this area. Depending on what kind of growth comes in, it could start out like this, or it could jump to option 2. But what we show here is that option 1 specifically is that in this area there'll be a large lift station that could take flows to this point and then send it to our central reclamation facility. From there, then we'll work to recapture that water and send it back up to the RID, groundwater savings facility, which is basically their farmed land, and we receive credit for putting it back into there. So this is, like I said, we're looking at things as a snapshot in time as well. So option 1 shows specifically a lift station for wastewater, but also at this site is actually a reclamation, a water campus as well, that sits along the BID canal that could be, and I'm talking water now, but it's very important to note that with a partnership with BID, if they become a wholesaler to us, we could take water from the canal and treat it at this site as well from a water standpoint. So, but from a wastewater, option 2 is actually if growth comes to a point where treatment is necessary for wastewater, we can have a wastewater facility here as well to then take those flows. The MAG 208 would need to be amended, not a big deal, it's just a paperwork effort, and then in which case Central would then no longer need to be to handle this area as well. Any questions on so then looking at switching gears one more time, we'll jump into festival, but this time we're looking at, we've got water and wastewater maps for festival as well, but this is the reclaimed one reclaim approach that is currently underway, and that is the construction of a recharge facility to handle not just our effluent from the facility. Right now, the effluent from that facility goes to Gulf or goes into the wash, and we receive no credit for it. What the basin allows for is we're permitted as an underground storage facility. Our effluent will go in there, we'll receive credit, but it also, because of its proximity to the Cap Canal, cap water could be placed in there for future recovery as well, whether it's ours, whether it's Pulte's, whether it's someone else's, or in many cases we can put hard water potentially as an option to put in that and then recover it, because the wells are right there, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are considered recovery wells, and so therefore we're effectively off of groundwater, we're utilizing water that's stored in the underground storage facility. And so that's not in place right now. The project is moving forward, but it's one of those recommendations that obviously everyone's in favor of. And between now and the next update, we should actually be operating this facility too.
And the pipe infrastructure already exists up to a pretty close proximity to that area, correct?
Absolutely, Mary. It goes to the reservoir on the golf course, but they only take what they need for golf. And like I said, in the slow seasons, it just gets dumped to the wash. Now we've permitted a portion of the wash as well as a constructed basin to be able to accept that and receive and accrue long-term storage credits. I think so. Only one next step, and actually it's probably the second one, but one next step will be to bring this back to council for adoption in January, and 5 years from now we'll do it all over again. So, with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Technical team is here, and I noticed our engineer, Richard Humphreys, has showed up from Corolla as well, in case there's any more questions I can answer.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like the idea that you went out and got solicited input on this as well. What kind of input did you receive, and how was it incorporated back into the plan?
Sure, I'll let actually Jason and Nate handle it. I know we had a couple hundred comments, and so.
Yeah, there was quite a few comments. The big ones were the ones that were more recent legislation that we took a look at after we finished the product, because we weren't sure exactly what was on the minds. But keep in mind, as Terry mentioned, this was a 2-year endeavor, so a lot of the stuff that just was approved by legislation late in the session, June, and carrying over ag to urban. Let me see, I had a couple of comments here. The big high-level ones. The alternative designation that we have going on west of the white tanks, that was a big one. How does that impact development in the area? And then the Harquahela water that was recently in the news, right about the same time we were wrapping this up. And then headlines about the purchase and how's that going to benefit the community. So those were the top 3, again, that weren't really illustrated in the first draft of the IWMP, because again, we were acting on stuff that was current. But still, as Terry mentioned, the time window, 2040, right? So 15 years. So we did go back and revisit that with the Corolla team to help us to portray what that picture looks like for the framework going forward.
Good, thank you.
For the ADOS, what was the input favorable from stakeholders out there or negative?
Because the permit was still pending, and it was more of what's the status, and we didn't have the information at the time of the pier. In fact, even now it's still pending, but again, during the summertime where we were reviewing with their stakeholders, they just really like to get more what was the updates.
Okay. And I think you had used the pun fluid. This is all fluid, and much more so than any of the other master plans that we have going on, because there are so many things that are changing.
Always.
More resources brought to the community, maybe a development that sparks, that triggers the need for certain infrastructure, or that infrastructure helps another development take off. And this is really good, that snapshot of time right now. The difference between now and even probably a year or 2 years from now is going to be monumental.
Yeah, I switched to this slide there, Mayor, because we've been working closely with Madame and Elianto, and because of the potential benefits that they see with the ADOS, they're redoing their plat and their PAD and all that type of stuff to be more really off of where their certs are currently now, more along Sun Valley Parkway. And so this nice square lines that we've got in here, that's not going to be the end product, essentially, as well as the water campus. They agree with this approach, and it'll grow from there. So, yeah.
You can say no comment on this next question. There's a lot of changes in legislation, a lot of changes in the resources we've already talked about. There's probably also some changes legally with lawsuits that are running their course right now. Is there any update on any of that? I think I heard rumblings that maybe some of the questions would be settled, at least at this court, by the end of this year. Are you hearing anything like that?
I have not heard. You sound like you got more current events than I have not heard.
Maybe that's just optimistic on my part.
There's a possibility there, but yeah, I have no update on that. I was just briefed recently on a more recent one in the area, and so
Okay.
something else to see where it goes.
Okay, any other questions from council? No. All right. Okay, great presentation. We'll look forward to seeing it on the 6th of January.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, that is all for item 2A. Item number 3, with nothing else on the agenda and the band starting, we are adjourned.